Story 1. The Substitute. It was supposed to be a normal Tuesday morning. 8:15 a.m. The intercom crackled. Class 4B, your substitute teacher will be arriving shortly. Everyone groaned. Our real teacher, Mrs. Beckett, had been out sick all the week. But when the substitute walked in, everything went quiet. She wasn't like any teacher we'd seen before. Her clothes looked outdated, long skirt, old-fashioned blouse. No teacher ID, no bag. Just a single stick of chalk in her hand. "Good morning, class," she said. "You can call me Miss Harlow." Her voice had this strange calmness, like she already knew us. And when she started writing names on the board, she did. No attendance sheet, no list, just names. Alex, Maya, Jordan, Eli, all spelled perfectly. When she got to Eli's name, though, she paused. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Eli laughed nervously. What?" She didn't answer. She erased his name, turned, and smiled at the rest of us. Then 5 minutes later, there was a knock. The principal peeked in, looking confused. "Excuse me, who are you?" "I'm the substitute," Miss Harlow replied politely. The principal frowned. "That's impossible. The substitute hasn't arrived yet." The class went dead silent. We thought it was a misunderstanding until Miss Harlow said something that made everyone freeze. "I've been here before. Class 4B always forgets me." The principal asked her to step outside. They left. We heard their voices, first calm, then sharp, then nothing. 30 seconds later, Miss Harlow walked back in, alone. "Where's the principal?" Eli asked. "She had to take a call," Miss Harlow said softly. That's when the lights flickered. The clock above the whiteboard froze at 9:24 a.m. Miss Harlow clapped her hands. "Everyone, open your books to page 119. But our books only went to page 98. She smiled faintly. "Then you're not looking hard enough." Then she turned back to the board and began writing dates. March 9th, 1999. April 12th, 2002. November 14th, 1999. We didn't understand until she wrote one more thing. Class 4B. Eli stood up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You weren't supposed to come back," she said quietly. The intercom buzzed suddenly. "Code yellow lockdown." This is not a drill chairs scraped. People panicked. But Miss Harlow just stood still, watching the hallway. The PA crackled again. "All staff, remain in position until 9:24 is cleared." The same time frozen on the clock. Something slammed against the door, once, then twice. "Do not open that," Miss Harlow warned. Eli ignored her. He tried the handle. Locked. "Let us out," he yelled. She looked at him, her eyes darker now. "Eli, please." "Sit down." The lights went out completely. Emergency lights kicked in, painting the room blood red. The board had changed. Our names were written again, each with a small cross beside it. Every name except mine. Then a voice on the intercom said, "Students of Class 4B, please remain calm." But it wasn't a real voice. It was distorted like a recording. Miss Harlow whispered, "Don't answer." Eli yelled back anyway, and the door slowly creaked open by itself. Miss Harlow walked over and shut it quietly. "Almost over," she said, "once the bell rings." And then, like nothing had happened, the lights came back. The clock ticked again, 9:25. Miss Harlow smiled. "All right, class dismissed." We didn't move. She repeated it, same soft voice. "You're free to leave?" So we ran. The hallway looked normal. Other students were laughing, walking completely fine. When we turned back, the classroom was empty. No teacher, no chalk, no writing. The next day, Mrs. Beckett returned. "Hope the substitute treated you well yesterday," she said. We all froze. "Yesterday?" Eli asked. "Yes, Miss Harlow, but it was Wednesday. There was no record of a Miss Harlow anywhere." Later that night, I checked my phone. Every photo from Tuesday was gone, all except one. A blurry picture of the whiteboard, page 119, and underneath, written faintly in chalk, Class 4B, never forget. Out of curiosity, I looked up the school archives. There it was. November 14th, 1999, bus crash. 23 students, Class 4B, and one teacher, Miss Eleanor Harlow. Story 2, Locker 119. When I first started at Ridgeway High, everyone talked about Locker 119. It sat at the very end of the east hallway. Bottom row, covered in chipped red paint and sealed shut with a rusted padlock that no one ever touched. People said it had been welded closed since 1999. Others claimed someone died because of what was inside. I didn't believe any of it until the locker started rattling. It was my second month at Ridgeway. I stayed late one day for detention, empty halls, lights buzzing. The janitor was mopping near the east wing when he looked at me and said, "Don't go near that end after dark?" I laughed. "Why?" He didn't answer, just stared down the hall, and then, clear as day, clang, metal against metal. We both froze. The sound came from the far corner, from locker 119. The janitor muttered, "Not again," and left. Didn't even finish his shift. That night I couldn't stop thinking about it. What could make a locker rattle? A mouse? Air vent? So the next day during lunch, I went back. The padlock was old, completely rusted. Someone had carved into the metal door, deep scratches that formed a single word: stay. I tugged on the handle. Nothing. It didn't move. But when I leaned closer, I swear I heard something tap back. Tap, 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 a rhythm, like someone knocking from the inside. I stepped back, trying to play it off. "All right, that's enough internet horror for today," I muttered and left. But the next morning, something had changed. Every locker number down that hallway had been wiped clean with white paint, except for 119. And now, written underneath it in fresh marker, was the time: 2:11 p.m. That's when the rumors got worse. Students said 2:11 was the time the accident happened, a bus crash years ago, when the school still had a middle wing. They said some of the victims' personal things had been stored in that locker after the fire. But the school never confirmed it. Every day after that, I noticed something strange. At exactly 2:11 p.m., the hallway lights flickered for a split second, always near 119. The first time, I thought it was power issues. The second time, coincidence. By the third day, I stood there waiting. 2:10. Nothing. 2:11. Rattle. Soft at first, then louder, until the metal shook like something trapped inside. People passing by would freeze, listen, and hurry away. But nobody ever told a teacher. It was like the whole school had agreed, just don't talk about it. So, of course, I did the opposite. I wanted to film it. Prove it. The next afternoon, I set up my phone on the floor across from the locker and hit record. 2:10 p.m., silent. 2:11, a faint sound. Then the padlock twitched. I froze behind the corner, staring. The locker door bulged slightly outward, like someone pushed from inside. Then the fire alarm went off. Students screamed. Teachers rushed everyone out. I grabbed my phone and left with them. Later that night, I checked the footage. The alarm started exactly 3 seconds after the locker moved. And when I paused on a single frame, I saw something I can't unsee. A handprint pressed from inside the metal. The next day, the school blocked off the hallway for maintenance. But I knew what I saw. So that night, I came back. Snuck in through the gym doors after basketball practice. The hallway was completely dark, but 119 was easy to find. That chipped red door at the end. This time, the padlock was gone, just dangling open. I don't know what I expected. Maybe an old notebook, maybe dust. But when I pulled the door open, a rush of cold air hit my face. Inside, hanging from a hook, was a backpack. Old, faded, soaked like it had been in water for years. I grabbed it and set it on the floor. Inside was a school ID card. Ethan Cole, class of 1999. My stomach dropped. That name was familiar. He was the kid who died in the bus crash. I looked up, and the locker door was moving again. Slowly, creaking closed by itself. Then, from down the hall, the intercom clicked on. All students, return to class. It's 2:11, but there was no one else in the building. And the voice, it was a young boy's. I grabbed the bag, shoved it into my backpack, and ran. The next morning, the school was swarming with maintenance staff. They were welding locker 119 shut again. I asked why, but they ignored me. Later, during lunch, the janitor found me. Same one from before. He looked pale, nervous. You opened it, didn't you? I didn't answer. He sighed. Kid, they sealed it for a reason. What's inside? I asked. He looked around before whispering, not what. Who, before I could say anything, he walked away. That night, I checked the backpack again. The ID was gone. The inside was completely dry, like it had never been wet at all. Then I noticed something new. Faint scratches on the front pocket. Numbers, 211. The next morning, the school announced a moment of silence in memory of the Ridgeway victims. No one had mentioned that in years. And when I went to my locker that afternoon, a note was taped to it. One line, written in neat handwriting. Thank you for letting me out. I looked down the hall. The east wing was empty, except for one locker, number 118, now sealed shut with a brand new padlock. And carved into the metal, still fresh, stay. Story 3, the announcement. It happened during third period. Math class. Fluorescent lights humming, pencils tapping, everyone half asleep. Then the intercom crackled. Attention staff and students. This is a code red lockdown. This is not a drill. The entire room froze. Our teacher, Mr. Grant, blinked like he hadn't heard it right. What? That can't be. He turned to the class. Everyone, stay calm. Move away from the windows. We pushed desks, locked the door, turned off the lights. Standard procedure. Except, something was off. We could still hear laughter from other classrooms down the hall. Doors opening, footsteps, people talking. If it was a real lockdown, everyone should have gone silent by now. Mr. Grant picked up the classroom phone to call the office, but there was no dial tone. Just static. Another buzz. The intercom came back. Repeat. Code red lockdown in effect. Shelter in place, but the voice sounded wrong. It wasn't our principal. It was slower, quieter, almost mechanical, like a recording being played through an old tape. Mr. Grant whispered, "Stay down," then slipped out into the hallway. He didn't come back. 5 minutes passed, then 10. All we heard was the faint hum of the lights and someone breathing too loud. At 10:41, the intercom clicked again. All staff, confirm lockdown status. Office will follow up in 5 minutes, still that same voice. Too calm, too flat. Eli, the kid sitting next to me, muttered, "If this was real, we'd hear sirens by now." He was right. No cops, no alarms outside, nothing. Just silence. Then from across the room, someone's phone buzzed, a text from the school's emergency system. No active lockdown. Please disregard false alarm. We all looked at each other. Mr. Grant still hadn't returned. Eli whispered, "Then who made the announcement?" 10 minutes later, the door handle started to move. Slowly, quietly, everyone froze. Then the intercom crackled again. "Teachers may now resume normal activities." We didn't move. Eli whispered, "I'm going to check." He crawled to the door, peeked through the blinds and said, "There's no one out there." Mr. Grant's phone lay on the floor outside. Screen shattered, flashlight still on. He opened the door just enough to grab it. Bang. The intercom screamed feedback so loud we covered our ears. Then silence. We sat there for a full minute. Nobody saying a word. Finally, Eli looked at the phone. The screen was frozen on the camera app. The last photo it had taken was blurry, but we could make out shapes in the hallway. Tall, shadowy figures standing perfectly still. There were 6 of them. By the time an actual lockdown happened, 3 hours later, we thought it was another false alarm. But this time, the police were really there. They evacuated us out the back doors, one class at a time. When we reached the parking lot, Mr. Grant's car was still in the lot. His keys were in the ignition, door wide open. No one saw him again. The school said it was a miscommunication, that he'd left the premises during the emergency. But the footage from the hallway cameras was missing. Every file between 10:39 and 10:45 a.m. deleted. They never explained the announcement. A week later, classes resumed. The intercom buzzed every morning for attendance, morning messages, the usual. But then, on Thursday, it happened again. "Attention staff and students. This is a code red lockdown. This is not a drill." We all jumped. The principal rushed to the mic immediately, her voice shaking. "Please ignore that message." It was not from this office. Everyone went quiet. And then, faintly through the static, another line came through. The same distorted voice. 10:41. That was the exact time of the first announcement. The next day, police and technicians tore apart the intercom system, replaced every speaker, rewired the main board. They swore it was fixed. But that night, while scrolling through my phone, I noticed a new voicemail from an unknown number. It was just static. Then, at the very end, a whisper. "Lock the door." I checked the timestamp. It had been recorded at 10:41 a.m. The same time, the same voice, the same day of the week, and the file name saved on my phone automatically, though I never typed anything. Lockdown 1999. When I looked it up later, my blood ran cold. On October 12th, 1999, a fire alarm malfunction triggered a lockdown at Ridgeway High. The system jammed. The announcements looped for hours. 6 people never made it out. One of them was the principal who'd been speaking on the intercom that day. Her name was Margaret Grant. Same last name as my teacher. Same voice as the announcement.